When choosing which toys to review in video format for CollectionDX.com, one of the rules, or as Scanty and Kneesocks are fond of saying, rule, I can't do it very well, that I follow is that I don't shoot anything that is smaller than my fist. And here's why. You know what? I'm not even going to try and pretend this time that I actually know what Super God Masterforce is, clumsy as that title is. From what I've read in the last day or so, it has a completely different continuity from the Transformers TV series. They debuted in '86, but it still has Autobot and Decepticons, except that they have pretender shells, and the Cybertronians can morph themselves into human shape, but at the same time humans can gain the ability to transform into a 30-foot tall robot. And from what I understand, the plotline is vaguely kind of sort of like Transformers Micron Legends. I mean, vaguely. I'm not saying it's copied, I'm just saying it's vaguely like that. But I suppose you don't need to know all that just to know that Masterforce was responsible for some of the later G1 toy releases in the United States, including this guy and these guys, who are known as the Seacons. Now here's the interesting part. The Transformers, the TV series, was still being made at the time that the Seacons came out. Unfortunately, the designs for the toys of the Seacons, while those came over to the United States, they were not able to appear in the Transformers TV series itself. They did appear in the G1 comic books that were published by Marvel Comics at the time, so they did appear there. And I think they had an appearance in the Japanese exclusive Beast Wars 2nd TV series, except there they were known as the Space Pirate Seacons, and had a completely different coloring scheme, completely different character background, completely different names. And the combined form was known as King Neptune. In 2008, the Transformers Collector Club reissued the Seacons, except that it was just another repaint with a completely different color scheme to them. Although I think, I could be wrong, I'm not looking at it right now, but I think they had different names and profiles then. But anyways. And then finally, 22 years after their original release in the United States, BigBadToyStore.com released this exclusive set of the 6 original Seacons and all their accessories. Now ordinarily, in the Japanese release of any Transformers toy, you would get a collectible trading card that has picture of the character and the name and the ID number for them, and then there's a picture of the toy and then some character bio, and then you get all the stats across the bottom here. Okay, this is standard affair in Japan for I don't know how long, but for Hasbro releases of the toys, it's usually printed on the side or the back of the packaging, and if you don't hang on to the packaging, then you lose the character bio, the quote, the picture, and the stats. Well, Hasbro did something rather surprising and gave us not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, but 7 collectible trading cards, one for each of the individual Seacons and one for Piranacon himself. This is awesome. You get a picture of the character on the front, you get the quote, the function, and a little bit of a bio here for the combined form, and then all of his stats right there. So, Hasbro, you should do this more often. I'm kind of glad that you gave this to us. Oh yeah, it says G1 Commemorative up here. So, nice. Very nice. I wish we had more of these. I wouldn't have to hang on to all the boxes. Do you know how much space these things are taking up in that walk-in closet? Seriously, they're taking up a lot of space. It's almost not even a walk-in closet anymore. I've got so many boxes. So, thanks for that, Hasbro, and can we have some more, please? So, first we're going to start off with the leader of the group, who is known as Rattrap. Snaptrap. Yeah, Snaptrap is his name. Although in Japan he's known as Turtler, for the obvious reason that he looks like a turtle. Kind of a monstrous-looking turtle, if you ask me. It's kind of creepy, though. Something rather un-turtle-like is Turtler is the commander unit of the Seacons, but the interesting thing about him is that the other Seacons are these kind of drone-like characters. I'm not sure. I didn't watch the whole episode. I couldn't find the whole episode, and I don't really care to find it. Anyways, whenever Turtler wants to summon the other Seacons, he makes this really high-pitched thing, which I was like, what the f*** was that? Yeah, his mouth can ratchet to a couple different positions. Yeah, the legs can bend like this, although primarily they're supposed to be like this because, well, they're like this on a turtle. Everything ratchets very nicely, tight, clean. The decals make a return. All the decals on this set have been pre-applied. All of them. I can't remember, or maybe my research hasn't been thorough enough to determine whether they originally had the heat-sensitive decals on the Seacons. It seems to me they did, but I don't remember. But even if they didn't, the return of the classic silver and purple Decepticon logo. Now here's the cool thing. Even 23 years later, this is cool. See this peg right here? See it has a slot to either side? Watch this. How awesome is that? You know what? I wish Transformers nowadays would have that. Simple as it is, easy as it is, it doesn't even have to be spring-loaded. Just back and forth recoil action. That's sweet. I'm also not 100% if the original Seacons had die-cast metal in them, but this version does not, because, you know, it's a lost art after all. Just a silly little thing. You can peg Snaptrap's blaster into his shell. You'd think after 22 years that they would remember to put that in the instructions, but they didn't. And here's a cool thing about his transformation. Well, not that part. Okay, let me get a little more into his transformation before I get to the cool part. There's a little heel piece right there you gotta pull down. Very little, it barely holds him up. It's actually kind of difficult to get it out of there. And it's so small, it's almost insignificant. Here's the cool part of his transformation. Watch this. See this black part right there? Watch this. As it's coming down, oops. Look at that. Want me to do it again? Here, I'll do it again. Eat your heart out, Automorph. And there you have Snaptrap in robot mode. Has a very Prime, Optimus Prime looking head to him, in my opinion. Posability is pretty much limited to the arms, although, you know, because of transformation you can get them out like this if you want to. The feet are at a slight angle, and just because of, I think it's probably the wear of the molds or something like that, but the legs are never quite lined up the way you want it to. So even though it will balance on a surface, you have to kind of play around with the hips and the knees here. One thing you can do, and this is pretty much tied into the transformation for Piranacon, is you can open up these connector points, and you can, and this is not in the instructions, it's probably not in the show, and you can plug that in there if you want to. It's an option. But Snaptrap primarily comes with this surprisingly huge rifle, which he typically holds in the right hand. There was a little bit of what's it called, flashing, I think, where there's a little excess plastic in there from the molding process. There's a little extra flashing right on the upper edge of the hole for the the hand there. So initially the rifle couldn't fit in. But what I eventually did is I took Piranacon's sword and I just pushed it into the hole real carefully and then kind of hole punched it through. And so that is it for Snaptrap, leader of the Seacons. Next up is Nautilator, whom you will have to attach his arms to out of the box. And they just peg in there with friction joints. Nautilator is a lobster. He's probably the best looking animal out of the 6 of them, by the way. Or most accurate beast mode of them all. Maybe Turtler, but I like this guy most. Nothing special. Articulation, you can bend these, but these are transformation joints. You can obviously bend the claws up and down, and you can open his mouth. Got some nice little teeth right there and there. And again, because of transformation, you can see the joint right there. You can also make the whole upper half of his body. You can look down if you wanted to. What you can do, though, is you can take his weapon, this 3-barrel weapon here, and you can peg it into his jaw, bottom of his jaw, to create kind of, I mean, you can store it on his beast mode like this. And that is it for Nautilator in beast mode. Now comes the fun part. Oops, careful. Not to the second position, but to the first position. That there's like a slight difference between the two. And then there you have Nautilator in robot mode. The head, I'm not going to bother zooming in on the head in these videos just because they're so tiny, and oh yeah, you'll have to look on CollectionDX.com for the video or for the photos there. You can place the claws upward if you want to, but just kind of like having them down. I don't know why. The shoulders are the only joints that ratchet, only to every 45 degrees. And you can place the rifle, well, blaster, in his hand like that. And that's it for Nautilator. Third on the list is Seawing, who is a manta ray with a pair of legs. Manta rays don't have legs, but this one does. Anyways, his mouth can open and close with friction joints in the hips and in the ankles as well. And he actually can balance on his legs individually or in a tripod effect with his tail. Some nice detail surface inside of there, and detailed surface on the inside of his mouth as well. Now you can take his paired blasters and you can place them underneath for an additional attack mode of sorts. But for his real attack mode, I'm going to get this guy transformed. Be really careful with the points on his head here, whatever these scoops or whatever they are. When these things push forward, they actually will poke you. In a previous take, I actually poked myself on that, twisted around. Ouch! So you want to be careful with that. And then for this, the wings want to fold back 90 degrees, and they'll snap into only 90-degree positions. but the tail also wants to snap into position. So there's actually a conflict back here, whether the tail ratchets into position and these sit off of 90 degrees, or you put the tail up and these sit 90 degrees, but that sits really high, or you can keep the wings up and keep that down. It's up to you. I have a tendency to keep the wings open, because if you squeeze the wings, watch what happens. So, that. And I'll put the tail down, and there you have C-Wing. There's a little better view of the interior of the wings. He actually is quite back heavy. He's probably the most back heavy of all 6 Seacons, so it's fortunate you can actually tilt these forward on friction joints. He'll lean forward at a weird angle, but he'll balance, okay? And then you can take the blasters and plug them in like so. And that is C-Wing. Next up is the little freak show of the Seacons, who is known as Scalor, who, despite his giant, rather pointy teeth, even for a toy, is not a piranha. He is a coelacanth? Coelacanth? However the hell you say that word. Which is basically a fish from, about 65 million years ago, which was recently rediscovered in '98. Yeah, okay, it looks like a piranha to me. Whatever. But it actually does have rather large fins, such as this. I mean, they're not arms like they are on this guy, but it actually does have long webbed hand-like fins like this in real life. Although I'm pretty certain he doesn't have legs like this. Nice surface detail here and here. Nice techie details along here. And when I said his teeth were sharp, I wasn't kidding. His teeth are sharp because the joint on here is incredibly tight. And yeah, despite being little and ABS, I actually did poke myself on those in a previous take as well as when I got them out of the box. Friction joint, friction joint, friction joint. Oh, and this flops lazily back and forth. He has a pair of blasters that can fit in holes. Yeah. I'm going to try and open this a little bit. Ow, that hurts. Seriously, that really hurts. The tightness of the joint combined with how they're not really sharp and pointed, but they're rounded and narrow enough that it'll hurt you just enough. It's a bad combination of things. So that has Scalor in beast mode. Oh yeah, the bottom. Transformation on this guy is actually a little challenging for one particular thing. Pull that forward, down. That's as far out as that goes. Here's the difficult part. Getting these fists out of here. They really are wedged in there pretty tight, and there's nothing really to hang on to. And so you're just going to have to raise and lower these a bunch of times in order to wear away at the friction in there, because your fingernails will be hurting by the time you finally get these out. So straighten this out, flip this over, and you get Scalor in robot mode. Actually, I kind of like how beefy his arms are. Oops, that's not... Okay. I will say that the decals have not been perfectly applied by the manufacturer. For example, this one here has a tendency to start lifting up even, what was this, 3 days after I got it out of the box. So the decals are not perfect, and sometimes they're misaligned. The misalignment I can deal with, but it's the ones that there was some flash or they were kind of sticking over the edge that really kind of ticked me off. You'd think they know better by now, you know? And you can put the blasters in his hands again. Yeah, get in there. Yeah, I'm going to drop it. No. This is my second take. I'm not doing a third one. And that is Scalor. You know what? I was mistaken. Scalor is not the little freak show of the Seacons. Tentakill is, which, by the way, is one of the most awesome names I've ever heard applied to a Transformer ever. Can you imagine, in this, the beginning of the second decade of the 21st century, a Transformer being called Tentakill? That's awesome. That's great. I love it. Anyways, yes, he is a little freak show. Most people, I don't know why, seem to think he's an octopus just because he has 8 tentacles. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 tentacles. But actually, no, I would debate that he's actually a squid because he's got this crown-shaped thing with these little fins sitting on the side here. I was talking about a squid the other day and I couldn't remember what the head section was called. And these dorsal fins here. Are those dorsal fins? Can't remember the term. Anyways, yeah, you can display him like this, or you can balance him like this. And his arms, or I'm sorry, his tentacles, that's what these are called. They're arms and they're tentacles. Imagine that. His tentacles only ratchet to these 2 positions. Well, no, they can actually ratchet back a little bit. Anyways, you can take his blasters and peg them to either side of his head, like so. And there you have Tentakill with his devil horns, which seems kind of appropriate considering that he's a sea monster. But he won't be a sea monster for much longer. No. That's actually rather tight right there, trying to get that in and out. I've worried a few times, and it's not a little peg that slips past. There's a little ridge that it has to go past. Anyways, flip this down. That. And you have the option to push these back if you want to, but you would have to move the legs in order to do so. But yeah, typically Tentakill is displayed with the tentacles forward. This is Tentakill in robot mode. Again, every 45 degrees, although I don't know why that's fighting me so much. Yeah, anyways, and you can take his paired blasters, although they look more like rifles to me. In like so. Tentakill. And last but not least is Overbite, who is a shark with pincer claw arms and pincer claw legs. Anyways. And the bottom. And the top. Again, removable arms that can swivel up and down with friction, ratcheting joint, friction joint, and that one just snaps into 2 positions. And that's because of transformation, but you can actually get the legs into a couple of different positions. So, know that the option is there. And this isn't quite as floppy as it is on Scalor, but, you know, you can still move it. And this can also move up and down because of the transformation. You can take his blaster and you can stick it in there, although on mine it is actually quite loose. Wow, see what I mean? It's actually quite loose, so I'm going to have to put some, was it clear nail polish or something like that on there? Thicken that up a hair or 2. Oh yeah, and his mouth actually doesn't open very much. It feels like it wants to, but it doesn't. this under here like this and hope it doesn't drop. Okay. Overbite in beast mode. But then it's actually a real challenge. You really have to fight this to get that back down to that horizontal position. You really do. Ooh, something's stuck in there. You can see the joint where the plastic, everything comes together. So I think probably what will end up happening is you have to sand that down just a little, and then it won't be as big a deal as you would think. Now, unlike the arms popping off, I have to put some nail polish on that as well. But I'm in the home stretch, so I'm refusing to redo this segment, this last segment. And this actually goes like this folds like this, down and in. And there you have Overbite in robot mode. Same joints apply, friction, ratcheting, and because of how it transforms, you can also get a little bit out of the wrist. But the nice thing is he can hold his rifle just fine, assuming you can actually get it in there with one hand, which I can't. Overbite. Now, if you got the either the King Poseidon, I'm sorry, the God Poseidon version of Piranacon, or if you got the original Piranacon release, then you can tell immediately, your jaws are on the floor right now. What? They changed that? Overbite, as far as I'm aware, had the heaviest modification made to him out of all 6 Seacons, in that the torso, legs, feet, and I think this blaster, maybe his mouth, were all originally purple. I know it's kind of a dull pink right now, but trust me, the whole thing is pink. And you can tell that this one's modified because it only has 2 colors on it. All the others have 3. You know, they've got the sea green or the blue, they've got the light pink or the dark pink or black or whatever it is, or gray. But this one only has 2 colors. So this one had the most modification to it. And I can tell, I'm pretty sure my camera can't pick it up, but this one, I can actually tell that the pink, or the kind of neon pink, whatever this, is slightly different from the thighs or this down here. So, slightly. It doesn't show up on the camera here, but yeah. So that's it for the individual Seacons.